Hello, this is Eric Michael Loyd. I have a master's in psychology, neuropsychology concentration. Um, I was reading something on Facebook earlier today, and it prompted me to want to look up a little bit more information on this um, historical person and past president, Theodore Roosevelt. I think it's a good idea that I brush up on a little bit of history as well, as my focus is primary psychology and could always be subject to forgetting if one doesn't what practice reading historical documents on who people are. This is actually from Wikipedia.org. I know there's a lot that people say that you should not use Wikipedia. However, if Wikipedia does have factual information, then I think that would make it okay to use that. Theodore Roosevelt Jr., October 27th, 1858 through January 6th, 1919. So he only lived about 61 years, made it to 61 years old. Passed away, I think, 2 years before my grandmother got to the United States on my mother's side. It says often referred to as Teddy Roosevelt, or his initials T.R., was an American statesman, politician, conservationist, naturalist, and writer who served as the 26th President of the United States from 1901 to 1909. He served as the 25th President from March to September 1901 and was the 33rd Governor of New York from 1899 to 1900. I didn't know that he was actually a governor of New York. Roosevelt emerged as a leader of the Republican Party and became a driving force for the antitrust policy while supporting progressive era policies in the early 20th century. I also did not know that he supported progressive era policies as well, which I typically see as valuable. Uh, his face is depicted on Mount Rushmore alongside George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Abraham Lincoln. Okay. If most people are familiar with Mount Rushmore. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Abraham Lincoln. Roosevelt was a sickly child with debilitating asthma, but he overcame his health problems by embracing a strenuous lifestyle, as well as growing out of his asthma naturally in his young adult years. He integrated his exuberant personality, a vast range of interests, and world famous achievements into a cowboy persona defined by robust masculinity. He was homeschooled and began a lifelong naturalist avocation before attending Harvard College. His book, The Naval War of 1812 1882, established his reputation as a learned historian and as a popular writer. Upon entering politics, he became the leader of the reform faction of the Republicans in the New York State Legislature. His wife and his mother both died in rapid succession, and he escaped to a cattle ranch in the Dakotas. He served as Assistant Secretary of the Navy under President William McKinley, but he resigned from that post to lead the Rough Riders through the Spanish-American War, returning a war hero. He was elected governor of New York in 1898 after Vice President Garrett Harbert died in 1899. The New York State Party leadership convinced McKinley to accept Roosevelt as his running mate in the 1900 election. Roosevelt campaigned vigorously and the McKinley-Roosevelt ticket won a landslide victory based on a platform of peace, prosperity, and conservation. Peace, prosperity, and conservation. Roosevelt took office as vice president in March 1901 and assumed the presidency at age 42 after McKinley was assassinated the following September. He remains the youngest person to become the President of the United States. Roosevelt was a leader of the progressive movement, and he championed his square deal domestic policies, promising the average citizen fairness, breaking of trusts, regulation of railroads, and pure food and drugs. He made conservation a top priority and established many new national parks, forests, and monuments intended to preserve the nation's natural resources. In foreign policy, he focused on Central America, where he began construction of the Panama Canal. He expanded the Navy and sent the Great White Fleet on a world tour to project the United States naval power around the globe. His successful efforts to broker the end of the Russo-Japanese War won him the 1906 Nobel Peace Prize. He avoided controversial tariff and money issues. Roosevelt was elected to a full term in 1904 and continued to promote progressive policies, many of which were passed in Congress. He groomed his close friend, William Howard Taft, to successfully succeed him in the 1908 presidential election. Roosevelt grew frustrated with Taft's brand of conservatism and belatedly tried to win the 1912 Republican nomination for president. He failed, walked out, and founded the so-called Bull Moose Party, which called for wide-ranging progressive reforms. He ran in the 1912 election, and the split allowed the Democratic nominee Woodrow Wilson to win the election. Following the defeat, Roosevelt led a 2-year expedition to the Amazon basin, where he nearly died of tropical disease. During World War I, he criticized Wilson for keeping the country out of the war with Germany, and his offer to lead volunteers to France was rejected. He considered running for president again in 1920, but his health continued to deteriorate and he died in 1919. He is generally ranked in the polls of historians and political scientists as one of the 5 best presidents. This is Eric Michael Lloyd. Thank you for your time.